God, I'm live. This is my first time going live on YouTube, so I hope that you can hear me okay. Um, but I wanted to talk about some things that I just had read. If you go back and look at on my channel, I did an interview with Chief Rod Hayes about the dark side of education, and he mentioned some books, some recommended reading. So I decided to look into one of the books he mentioned, and one was called The Deliberate Dumbing Down of Education by Charlotte Iserbyt. And so I'll leave, once I'm done with the live, I'll leave a description in the link below. But I just thought this was very important information to share because on Instagram, I actually shared a video that I came across of it looked like high school age students in a public school setting, and there was a young man that was asking the children to read an analog clock, which is basically a clock with hands, right? And so he would set the clock, and the children couldn't. They didn't know one. They didn't know how to read it. They said one of the students even said, "Dude, I've never even seen a clock like that. I only know about digital." So this is bad. So, and then I said, you know what? Let me look up that book that Chief Rod Hayes mentioned, The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America, because I was just like, this really is the deliberate dumbing down of America, because to not be able to read an analog clock is, I don't know, that's pretty simple. So, let me get out. I went to, and again, like I said, I will link this in the uh, description box below. But let me just take a moment to just read a section out of this book, a short section, so you will understand the seriousness of what's going on in the public educational system. It's really serious. The children aren't learning anything, and I'm making this video so people can understand that they really need to take their children out of the public school system. Okay, so I'm reading now out of the book. It's called The Deliberate Dumbing Down of Education in America. It's by Charlotte Iserbyt, and I'm at page 206. And so uh, let me just say right here. So it says here, in 1984, Jacqueline Lawrence gave testimony before the Subcommittee on Education, Arts, and Humanities of the Senate Committee on Labor and Human Resources, which held hearings on Senate Joint Resolution 138, a bill establishing a commission on teacher education. Excerpts from Mrs. Lawrence's testimony follow. So let me share with you an excerpt from her testimony. It's quite eye-opening. Miss Lawrence stated, "It is public knowledge that since the 1960s, academic standards have declined. Why? Quite simply, over the past 20 years, our schools have not placed emphasis on academic achievement. There has instead been a shift toward psychological development and social adjustment of students in the affective domain, that is, their feelings, attitudes, and opinions. The shift began in 1965 with the passage of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. Since 1965, billions of federal dollars have been allocated to educational theorists and curriculum developers to alter the course of public education. The blueprint for the process of educational reform may be found in a series of guides known as pace setters in innovation. From this has come a nationwide information network of educational resource information centers and the National Diffusion Network of Laboratories for the dissemination of federally funded classroom materials and curriculum. With the new programs came a retraining of the teachers. So, a prime example, in 1969, the Office of Education began financing model teacher education programs known as the behavioral science teacher education program to introduce to the classroom methods employed by the behavioral scientists, the sociometrist, and the psychiatrist. Okay, so I mean, do you see where this is going? This doesn't make any sense. So why would they need to do this? Now it goes even further. Listen to this. Such methods are the most coercive and manipulative known to man today. They were originally developed and used for treating mentally disturbed in mental institutions and the criminally insane in prisons. So, do you see why you see what's happening in these schools? So, when people are saying, why are they doing this? They need to be doing this. Well, we're going back to the 1960s, and this is what a woman was testifying to in 1984. So, they started this way back then. Now, let's keep going. The techniques are role playing, psychodrama, sociodrama, simulation games, guided fantasy, diary keeping, situation, attitude scale tests, encounter groups, magic circle, and behavior modification such as isolation. And we've seen these in Chicago, these isolation rooms, timeout boxes, and coffins, as well as operant conditioning. These are techniques to influence by clinical hospital procedures the thinking processes of children in a compulsory classroom setting. Okay, so do you see what's going on here? This is serious. These people, they're using techniques, like they said, by behavioral scientists, the sociometrist, and the psychiatrist. Now, she goes on to talk about what kind of techniques, how they carry it out, what that looks like in practical terms in the classroom. Okay, so it goes on. The woman's testimony goes on to say, in addition to training teachers, a special cadre of sensitive manipulators known as change agents were trained to facilitate the process of change and to identify forces which resisted change. The change agent serves as a catalyst for teacher and citizen awareness and attempts to gain support for educational change. So, Dr. John Goodlad's report to the President's Commission on School Finance, issue number 9, Strategies for Change, dated October 1971, explains that the change agent is the decision maker. He decides which changes a school will make. The report states that 5 to 15% of the people in a given community are open to change. So that's not a lot. That's a small amount of people. They are the early majority and can be counted on to be supportive. A second group, 60 to 90%, are the resistors. They need special attention and careful strategies. Also, there are leaders, formal and informal, and their support is critical for effecting change. In a diagram from the report, you will note that the change agent creates the early majority and influences the leaders, and then gets the support of both of these groups to act in concert with him to leave a triple or to level a triple attack on the resistors. So this is all planned out. This is an orchestrated plan, okay? Goodlad's report to the president expressed concern about the willingness of the people to change. People cannot be forced to change until they are psychologically ready. Even if we assume for the sake of argument that change agents are gifted with infinite knowledge and wisdom, their methods are in conflict with the political principles of democracy. Their changes in curriculum and methods and goals of education have not come as a result of democratic discussion and decision. So they're telling you right here. So do you see why they need change agents? Okay, this is all planned in what they're doing. It's because, and they're trying to figure out how to get around that, because if you go to these school board meetings and things like that, they're making decisions, and these decisions are not the result of discussion. They're just saying, okay, we're going to do this, and they have these board meetings, but they're not interested in, what the parents have to say or anybody else really has to say. It's something that they're going to do. It's been decided a long time ago, as far back as the 60s and even further, to start implementing these things. Okay, so listen to this. In this vein, it is interesting to note that the Maryland State Teachers Association has lobbied against proposed state legislation for parental access to classroom materials because teachers, quote, would be ineffective as change agents. Moreover, education is now termed psychosocial, psychomedical, humanistic, affective, and or diagnostic and prescriptive. Educators diagnose the child's emotional, intellectual, perceptual, and conceptual development levels. Dr. Benjamin Bloom explains that what educators are classifying is the intended behavior of students, or as he puts it, the ways in which individuals are to think, act, or feel as a result of participating in some unit of instruction. So again, this is this sort of thing that we're seeing in schools, because think about it. How I mean, when I was a child, people label these students. So when they go into classroom, you always hear about how the students are labeled by the teachers and things like that. This one is this one is that. So again, this was in 1984. This woman was testifying. Her name was Jacqueline Lawrence. This is page 206 of the book, The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. So she's telling what's been going on in the educational system and why these students are not really academically motivated. It's a deliberate dumbing down of America. They've shifted from the focus being on academics to something else. And you can clearly see that in the schools it's being carried out, okay? So I'm almost done, but this was a really good section that I wanted to read so you can understand what's going on, okay? Now, it says here, in order to bring about desired attitudinal changes in students, teachers must first know where a child is in his or her attitudes and opinions. Various tactics and techniques are used in classrooms to make a child reveal himself to his teacher and peers. The examples I use below are nationally used and have received federal funding. So here they are. Magic circle, talk in, contact or group discussions. So the teacher gathers the children into a circle where they are encouraged to discuss personal feelings about one another, their parents, and home life. Family size, advantages, disadvantages, comparison of toys, vacations, and clothing may be discussed. Family conflicts, worries, and fears are often revealed. Inside Out, a nationally used elementary social studies program which encourages students to discuss their feelings before, during, and after their parents' divorce. Their personal reactions to the death of a friend, pet, or relative, what your friends think of you, what adults think of you, and what you think of yourself. Logbooks. These are workbooks used in conjunction with many language arts textbooks. They are vehicles for children to reveal their reactions to short stories, often dealing with emotions and moral dilemmas. There are no right answers, only personal responses. Sometimes the logbooks guide the child into a response. For instance, even if your family is a happy one, you're bound to feel sad or even lonely. When might a person be lonely, even if he is part of a family? Now that sounds familiar. I feel like I've seen that somewhere before in my childhood and schooling. Loneliness is listening to your parents arguing. Loneliness is when you come home and there's no one there. Loneliness is ... fill in the blank. Perhaps the most frequently used strategies for self-revelation are the diary and role-playing, and these techniques were introduced into American schools by an Estonian teacher, Hilda Taba, and a Romanian psychiatrist, Jacob Moreno. The U.S. Office of Education gave grants to Taba to develop an elementary social studies program to improve the social adjustment and personality development of children. She had worked in reform schools and mental institutions with Moreno and found that role-playing and diaries were successful tools to learn where a child stood in his beliefs, attitudes, and social interactions. The diary has been used for years in Russia and China for self revelation, self evaluation, and self criticism. More recently, the personal diary was found in Guyana throughout the Jim Jones compound. Okay, so, and yeah, and in Montgomery County, Maryland, that requires its students to keep a diary from kindergarten through grade 9. And diaries are an important psychological instrument. They provide a precise record and personality profile of the child, his family members, neighbors, and peers. Information needed by the teacher or therapist to alter a student's behavior or attitude. It is important that the writing be freestyle and spontaneous, coming directly from the emotional feeling area of the child. Diaries are not corrected for form, grammar, or spelling. A teacher manual for values education suggests 15 kinds of diaries for use in the classroom. Some examples are a budget diary, religion diary, hostility and anger diary, low points diary, affectionate and tender feelings diary, and a time diary. In the psychosocial approach to education, the child is taught concepts through the use of psychotherapy. For example, to better understand the social problem of prejudice and to teach children through experiential learning, blonde children in a fifth grade, age 10, were asked to sit in the back of the room for 1 week, totally isolated, not permitted to participate in the classwork. For a 1.5 hour period of each day, brown haired students were instructed to pick on, insult, and make fun of or taunt the blondes. Needless to say, taunting spilled over onto the playground, with some of the blondes being told, "You can't play with us." At the end of the week, blondes were given candy bars as a reward for their suffering. But the browns, who in bullying were obeying the teacher's instructions, were given nothing. How does a child react to being punished or deprived for carrying out his assignment? How much learning went on in the classroom for 5 days? Some children enjoyed taunting and bullying. Was the week spent on such experiential learning quality time? What about the 7.5 hours spent in taunting? Would this time have been better spent on academic learning? So again, like I said, I'm just going to leave it right there. So I just read you pages 206 through 209 of the book, The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America, written by Charlotte Iserbyt. And this is why you're seeing what you're seeing in the public educational system. So again, I just read to you. This was at a Senate hearing from 1984. And again, I will leave the book in the description section. And what prompted me to just pick up this book again, for those of you who are just now getting to the video, it's because I had an interview with Chief Rod Hayes about the dark side of education, and he wanted to drop some receipts. He was like, "Look, here's a list of books and things that I want to reference that people should look into." And so this book that I'm reading out of was one of those books. And again, I saw that children, high school age children in a public school setting, did not know how to read an analog clock. They were just like clueless. One of the girls in the little video I shared on Instagram said the time was 6:74. That's, where do you get that from? I don't understand. 6:74? That's not even a thing. So that's not even a time. So these kids are definitely being changed. They're being it's behavioral modification. The teachers are trained. They had to be retrained to implement these things in the classroom. And there are exercises, diaries that these children are instructed to keep from elementary school all the way up to high school. So they're telling you what they're doing. This is why we're seeing what we're seeing. It's ridiculous. So parents, look, we all know that sometimes children, like, they act a certain way around you, mom and dad. caregiver, grandma, grandpa, auntie, uncle, whatever, and then they act a different way with their friends. Why is that? Why is that? Their behavior is being modified at school. And so they feel like they have to be a different way at home in front of you, I guess, to keep up appearances. But this is serious. This is why when your children come home or just, it's like, I was at the store today and I saw a girl. I saw this young girl, and she was walking with her children, her friends. They were going to the store. We always used to do that after school. You walk with a group of friends. You might go to the store and get some snacks or whatever, right? So you should have seen what this girl had on. Okay, this young girl had on some short shorts. I mean, they were short. They were like cut off shorts. And then she had on some, okay, so y'all ever seen those? I forgot what you call those, but those stockings, right? So let's just say if a woman was wearing like lingerie and then she had on a bustier, right? And then I guess there was like this little strap that held up the pantyhose. Remember those? Like that. She looked like she was wearing, she looked like she was wearing something like that underneath the shorts. So the shorts are really short, and she was wearing these stockings that look like lace kind of something. And y'all, I would never let my daughter wear anything like that out of this house. So this is why I'm saying, and they go to school and they think it's okay. And it's just going, your child is being psychologically manipulated at school. This is why, like when they're saying, oh, your child wants to be something else now. This is what they're telling me, So I don't want to overtalk it, but this is serious. And we need to start homeschooling. We need to get our children out of these indoctrination centers, because that's what they are. Please pick up this book. There's a free PDF of this online. I will leave that information in the description section after I conclude this video. But let's just stay in touch. Subscribe to the channel. I'll have more information where this is coming from. I'm also starting a preschool, a private preschool for parents who need help educating their children, and they just need like like a leg up. Like, I don't know how to homeschool, so can you just kind of hold my hand a little bit, and then they can be led and they can see how easy it is. So I'm starting a preschool. It's called Sun School Pre-Kindergarten. You can find out more about that at preksunschool.online. And then also, if you are wondering how to get your children out of the public school system, I wrote a guide about how to do that, how to easily do this. And you can find that guide at sunschool.site. And so I just hope you stay in touch, and I'll be doing more videos like this. At least I'll try. I'm busy. Like, I'm usually not doing lives. So this was new for me, but when I read this, I was like, I can tell somebody about this. So anyhow, y'all have a good night, and I'll see you on the next video.